There's a great weekend of harness racing action at the Meadowlands, and that's what we're going to cover on the Harness Spotlight this time around. Over $2 million in stakes action for Meadowlands Pace Night. They have a $50,000 guaranteed pick five, 100,000 and a $50,000 guaranteed pick four. Free harness IPPs we'll have. We'll have live video, 10% rebate on win wagers, and I brought in Jay Bergman to discuss some of the action. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to a big Saturday night.
We're going to dive right into the big race on the card, the $682,650 Crawford Farms Meadowlands Pace. Field of 10 is set to go for that race. And I would say most people would agree the top three in this race are Captain Crunch, Bettor's Wish, and Working on a Mystery, the top three from the NA Cup.
Absolutely. You know, when you get to this level, you have to go fast enough to win big races. And those three certainly separated themselves from the rest of the North American Cup. And it looked pretty much the same last week when we watched the two eliminations.
Well, let's take a look at those two eliminations. There was some interesting, maybe not some interesting action. They kind of, settled in and went their way. The first of which we have Captain Crunch going against Working on a Mystery, I believe. And Captain Crunch is doing his own thing and Working on the Mysteries, kind of trying to sneak up late, but really not getting anywhere.
I'm not so sure he was sneaking up on anybody. It looked like Scotty was well in command and probably easing up a little bit before the wire. So you get that illusion that one was closing, but I don't think one was closing really that well.
The other elimination, we saw Bettor's Wish kind of take charge, and really there was no one close there. We did see a little bit of a late pace from Best in Show with Brian Sears taking over.
I think Best in Show is a horse that needed the race and should improve off of that race. But again, what you're watching in Bettor's Wish is a horse that does whatever you need him to do.
No doubt about it. I mean, he's been pretty handy. He hasn't, really missed many opportunities at all this year. Is that where you're going to end up going in this field?
I'm definitely going in that direction. And, it was one of those things. It's the fluke of the draw or the preference of the draw. Captain Crunch from the rail, I'm just kind of wondering whether that's just not the best place in the world to start at, because I think there's going to be, with four horses from Tony Alagna's stable in there, I have to believe a few of them are going to want the front end. And that's going to put Scott Zeron and Captain Crunch in a much more difficult position than he might have been in the North America Cup, where he was on the outside. He can control where he went. Here it's going to be from the minute the gate opens up, Scott Zeron's going to have to do everything right.
For me, I felt like maybe, listen, he was right there in the North America Cup, but I don't know. I'm just not convinced in Bettor's Wish yet. Can you talk me onto him? Is there?
The fact that the horse is making multiple moves in a 52 half, it's hard to look down at something like that. And I think it's his handiness that impresses me the most. His handiness and his willingness to drive on late. The power of Captain Crunch is convincing. The win in North America Cup was convincing. Last week was convincing. I'm just a little bit concerned that if horses on the outside press up early, Scott Zeron is going to have to make a decision. I also think that Dexter Dunn is going to be smart enough to put himself right next to Captain Crunch with Bettor's Wish and make sure that instead of sitting in the 3-hole or a bad 2-hole, he's sitting right on Captain Crunch's back if he has to be sitting in that spot, turning for home, which will make a horse race out of it. And again, I think that a lot of pressure is going to be on the rail, because I believe every move has to be the right one. You can get locked in from the rail if you don't leave horses out, and if you go too fast early, you potentially get victimized by horses late.
There's no doubt in my mind that Captain Crunch and Bettor's Wish are going to be pretty close on the board, as far as favoritism goes. And that kind of led me to go with Working on a Mystery as my top pick. Everything I've seen from him shows me he's right there with these two. The outside post isn't great, but really it's winning at a higher percentage than post one is here. I just thought taking the value on this horse might be the best play, where I can get 4-1 or so on Tim Tetrick.
Well, again, it's going to be a finesse situation here for Tim Tetrick and Working on a Mystery, and it's not that easy to finesse this race. And I wouldn't be opposed to that pick, except, like I said, I really do believe that there's got to be a few other levers on the outside from the Alagna stable that are going to try to mess things up early. And that's really a question of can Tim Tetrick get out of that mess on the outside and put himself in exactly the right spot, follow the right horse that he needs to follow. those are going to be tough things to do. But there's a reason why he's been nominated for the Harness Racing Hall of Fame.
No doubt. I mean, thinking about that, if those Align Your horses go, let's say the U.S. captains of the world or the Captain Trevors or whoever from the outside, I mean, wouldn't you consider them be the weaker of the group, the top end here? And doesn't that mean that Working on the Mystery could kind of let them go, make his move to the front, no one's going to stop him, and then he's kind of in the best position?
Well, that's assuming that on the inside nobody gets in the way, and I really believe that Zeron and Dunn driving Captain Crutchers and Captain Crunch and Bettor's Wish, they're going to press out of there enough. I don't think they're going to want to be covered up by too many horses. But again, like I said, I think that puts Tim Tetrick in a little bit of a bind. Does he get behind them? Does he try to get in front of them? It's going to be a price to pay if you want to get in front of them. And that's my concern about Working on a Mystery. If he has to pay that price of a 25 and 1, a 25 and 2 quarter to get around them, what does he have left at the end of the race?
Well, that's race 8 on Saturday night, July 13th. It's the Meadowlands Pace, worth over $682,000. Jay likes Bettor's Wish, number 4. I like the 9, Working on a Mystery. Certainly an interesting race. It's part of the $100,000 guarantee pick 4, which starts in race 6. We're going to take a look at the last leg now, which is the Haughton, which goes for $423,000. Full field of 12, going at 1 mile and an eighth. And I mean, I think the morning line favorite was made McWicked at 5-2, but certainly one to watch in here has got to be Lather Up, who tied the world record with a 146 mile last week. And we're going to take a look at that 46 win. I mean, perfect fractions. Always a Prince really set it up for him nice.
It's funny people say a perfect trip or a 2-hole trip. You're going in 46. Nothing's ever perfect. I mean, you really have to work to go that fast. And I was impressed that the horse responded, and he had to work basically early to get that trip. So, I mean, it was a great effort for the horse. But again, I'm not going to take that much, give him extra credit for the mile. When you see horses who are finishing 3rd and 4th going in 46 and 2, and they're not necessarily the world beaters as well, I'm not so sure that the time means all that much. I don't think Lather Up necessarily pushed himself that far away from the rest of these horses.
Yeah, listen, I think the time to play Lather Up was last week if you were going to play him. I think that moment has passed. This is a really tough field. You're going to get a much shorter price now. He's probably just not worth the play at this point, which leads me to look at some of the others in the field. And what do you make of Always a Prince? Now he's getting driver David Miller back. He seemed to handle him really nicely 2 starts back.
Well, I think it's normally a race I like to go and follow a horse off of. I just kind of wonder, when you throw those kind of fractions out, is it going to tighten them up or loosen them up, coming the next race? And I'm a little leery. The larger field, the longer distance, I don't know that plays well for him. And, like I said, that's probably why I went away from any horse that was in the race, to McWicked, because at least he didn't have to go that much last week.
McWicked is the morning line favorite, whether or not, I doubt he'll be a big favorite, and who knows if he'll even be a favorite come post time. The thing that concerned me with him is we typically don't see a lot of early speed from him. This is a 1 mile and an eighth race where the outside post positions can get away a little bit better. They have a longer run into that first turn, and he really hasn't shown to be the type of horse that has that big burst of speed. He kind of has been grinding them down, especially this year. And to me, that concerned me that maybe he had too far to come here.
I understand where you're coming from there, but I'm hoping that we're not the only ones that learned something from Brian Sears' events a few weeks ago at Pocono and not getting away close enough as he did with Green Shoe, in the Beale Memorial. I have a feeling that he's got to know I can't make that same mistake twice, and hopefully, he won't make it on Saturday.
I will say it seems as though he's been driving a little bit more aggressively recently since that occurred. So maybe that's the case. The horse that I went in here, I tried to look a little bit of a different way, and I went with number 10, This Is the Plan. I just feel like if you look at that race list, the 46 mile last week in the Graduate, he raced really well. He didn't do anything wrong there. Obviously, he won the start before that in the Franklin. He's a horse with a ton of speed. The 1 mile and an eighth certainly helps him. There's no way he doesn't make the front, I would think, from this spot. I think he's going to be in a prime position to win. Whether or not he delivers the knockout blow, I'm not sure, but I think we'll get a good price, especially because he's in post 10.
Well, I think you made a good point there, and the post 10 is somewhat irrelevant in my mind when you're going to go all that way into the first turn with the extra distance. It sort of doesn't hurt the outside horses; they can cross over without actually having to hit a turn. So I think that's a very significant factor for outside horses in any of these mile and eighth races. If you're fearing that they might get parked, they're probably going to get clear pretty quickly. But again, there's going to be a price to pay for any horse leaving in those races. A mile and eighth, we're talking 25-second quarters. I'm almost positive if we see the right weather, we're going to see 24 and something in one of these mile and eighth races. I mean, it's just there's that many good horses in there, and the front obviously is a valuable place to be.
Do you see any of the other horses in there? Obviously, we've seen Highlighter step up. I'm always wrong on Highlighter. No matter when I pick him, he's bad. When I don't pick him, he's good. I can never figure him out. Western Joe's another interesting horse who I think he won a mile and an eighth race here either last year or the year before. He was good, then he was bad. He's tough to figure out.
I just don't think there's, we talked about the elite level horses originally. I mean, obviously McWicked, Lather Up. This is the plan. Over the last 3 weeks, I think those are the ones that have been sticking out and showing that they can go the distance and they can go the speed. And, whether your opinion about McWicked, I'm kind of feeling that McWicked's best game really wasn't the tactical races that he had to race at Pocono on two occasions. And I kind of think that the big track is probably going to be beneficial to him.
Okay, that sounds good. Obviously, it's a big 13-race card. There are 10 stakes races on the card. Anything else stick out, or something you're looking forward to watching or seeing during the night?
Well, there's two horses I'm really looking forward to watching, and like I said earlier, Caveat Alley drew post 10 in the Golden Girls, and she's obviously in against Haughton, who's the top horse in North America right now, but I thought Caveat Alley's last race was incredibly good as I've ever seen her. And I know that the connections have always said, she can be good one week, bad the other week, but she put a few races together, and I just think she's coming into this race in great shape. I like the 10-hole. I don't think it's going to be a problem for her. I watched Haughton last week at, in the great Northeast at Harrah's, and I thought she was okay. I didn't think she was anything fantastic. So I think it's a good value play with Caveat Alley, and I also came back later on in the card in the Mistletoe Chalet with Tall Drink Hanover. I think the Waterwee Butte invincibility has been shattered a little bit by the last few races, and Tall Drink had like a ridiculously impossible trip in the Lynch post 9. Andy McCarthy wanted to sprint out in 25, and then he decided, well, I never get in the front, so he took back, and she was just lost after that. But before that, she's won a 50-mile and looked very impressive doing so. So she gets the 3-hole mile and eighth race. McCarthy, I think she's going to be very good value in the Mistletoe Chalet.
So a couple of bonus plays there from Jay Bergman. As we said, there's going to be live video on DRF.com. There's a 10% rebate on win wagers for DRF bets. We'll have free harness IPPs. Garnett Barnsdale will be contributing some real-time analysis on Harness Live, and it should be a great night on the 13th on Saturday at the Meadowlands. Thank you for joining me, Jay.
Thank you.